All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Rocket Chiro Podcast, the business and marketing podcast for chiropractors. Today, I'm going to share an interview with you, or just a conversation. I don't even know that I would call it an interview, but a conversation I had with Dr. Chris Dorsa, who is a chiropractor from Denver. He has a really big following on YouTube, has a large following on Instagram. I found him when I was doing research on some of the top chiropractors on Instagram. Reached out to him and I just said, hey, would you be willing to come on the podcast? I think he's an interesting dude, sort of marches to a beat of his own drum. Thought he'd be an interesting person to have a conversation with. We just got this done the other day. I wanted to go ahead and share it with you guys. So I'm going to cut to that here in just a second. Before I do that, I do want to remind you guys, if you want a better chiropractic website, go to rocketchiro.com and check that out. If you're getting started in practice or you've been out for a little while and you're feeling a little stuck with the business and marketing side of things, go to Rocket Chiro and check out my Next Step program. It's designed to help chiropractors get started, get a good foundation for their marketing and business, and get headed in the right direction. That's enough about me. I'm going to cut this short, head over to the interview that I did with Chris, and I'll just talk to you guys on the next episode. So hope you enjoy. All right, man, Chris. Hey, thanks for hanging out with me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm excited. Been a long time coming.
Yeah, we finally got around to doing this. As I've looked at your stuff, I got connected with you originally because I just did a deep dive into like Instagram chiropractors. And when you start looking at who's got followers and who doesn't and whatever, you were one of the ones that came up.
Yeah, I actually listened to that one. You put like all the statistics together. I thought that was pretty interesting to see or to hear about. I was like, oh, cool. I'm like up on the board.
Yeah, it was actually, it was kind of nerdy. Like I went off on a rabbit trail. Like my brain just went into a direction of like, I was kind of going, okay, well, who are the top chiropractors on Instagram? And I couldn't find a good answer in like Google. Like it wasn't like there was just a list or something. So I was like, all right, I'm going to look and see what I can find. And then the question popped in my brain of like, well, what type of content are they posting? What kind of interaction are they having relative to how many followers they have? Because I know you can just buy followers. So it's like, how much do you know? Yeah. How much do you know based on a number that you're seeing on social media when, and there's a world where that could be fake and someone's getting like 2 likes, but they have 150,000 followers. It's just, so
you buy accounts and stuff. And
yeah. I went down this rabbit trail.
Oh yeah. Go ahead.
So what I was kind of wondering about you. So here's the thing that's keep like rolling through my head as we've talked about doing this is I was thinking like, is Chris a chiropractor who's an influencer, or is he an influencer who's a chiropractor? And I was going to ask you, like, how do you see yourself? And like, what is the, like, is one more prominent than the other, or is it just a mix of the two?
I originally started as a chiropractor.
Yeah.
And I started, so I worked for somebody for about a year after school, and then I quit my job and I opened up my own spot out of a CrossFit gym, a little closet 10 by 13 room. And then a month later, COVID hit and I had to shut down for I didn't know when we were going to be able to open back up. And so I was like, well, I need to be doing something. So, I knew video stuff was a good way where I could create like physical therapy videos. So I'd have like a rehab library so that when I did come back on board, I would have like a library or, something that I could use for my patients. Yeah. And I didn't know about like the chiropractic world, like on social media yet. I think it was around the time, I think I was like 2 years late to the game. So like Dr. Bo Hightower was like big on YouTube. We got Dr. Johnson on, the Ring Dinger. I think he was like the OG. And so I think
he is the OG.
Yeah, I had posted one video of me like adjusting somebody just kind of for fun. Like at the point, my PT videos were getting like 1 or 2 views, which were probably from me. And then I posted one video of me just like adjusting somebody with like a microphone, and it got like 50 views. And I was like, oh, okay, like other people are seeing this. And I started to kind of like dive in. Like the comments were like, oh, like we want to see the whole thing. It's like an ASMR thing. So I started looking on the internet and I was like, oh, this is like a whole thing on the internet. Like chiropractors just film their treatments. And I know in school they teach us not to do that. That it's like the sacred thing that you shouldn't share with the world. And I was like, well, I think I have something different. And it's kind of fun for me. I'm going to start, posting these videos. So during COVID, I started to kind of figure out what people wanted to see. And yeah, that's how it got started. Going back to the original question, are you a chiropractor or an influencer? I am, very prideful in like, what I do and how I work as a chiropractor. I think, recently it's started to shift into this influencer mode, and I think I able to bring more value to a broader audience with posting one video. So if I spend like a day making videos versus like seeing 20 patients a day, it's like, well, if one of those videos is able to go viral, and I have, I'm saying good things, or I'm like representing the, our profession well, I think that that can give, that's much better for the profession than me seeing a patient one-on-one. So I'm slowly phasing myself out of patient care over the next year. We've got a pretty good team at the office now that I trust, and working towards doing more educational type stuff versus like the crack entertainment is what I call it. I think people are getting kind of tired of those videos. I think when I first started, there weren't that many people in there, and now it's like everybody's doing it. So it's very hard to compete in that space now, because the internet has so many videos and so many different types of people doing it. So, now that I've kind of got the audience from, the YouTube and, my demographic and stuff like that, I kind of see all of that as entertainment. Now I'm slowly trying to slip in education and, value, things that will actually like change the world in a positive way.
Yeah. There's so much in that. I was
Sorry, I just went on a huge rant.
No. That's perfectly fine. Like I love just letting people talk. So it's like that's perfectly fine. So you got started with YouTube first, and then yes, Instagram second. And I'll tell you what, timing is everything when it comes to.
Yeah, I definitely missed the that initial jump. It's like the stock market getting in early, so I feel like I had to do like weird stuff to kind of push myself up there.
Well, you think you missed it, bro? Like I remember having this thought. So I graduated in 2004, and back in 2004, chiropractors were genuinely asking the question, do chiropractors need a website? I mean, it's right. Like we didn't know for sure if we needed a website. It was sort of the end of the old world and the start of a new. Social media wasn't really even a thing yet, like it is now. And so I remember going on YouTube because I had the same thought you did. It's like, I thought, I'm answering a lot of the same questions with my patients. I'm showing them how to do a lot of the same stuff. Wouldn't it be cool if I just had a library of videos that I just didn't have to have these same dumb conversations all the time? Like I was thinking from an efficiency standpoint.
Right.
And I remember going on YouTube, and I don't remember what year it was, but I'm telling you, there was probably 2 chiropractors in the whole world that had videos on YouTube. It wasn't even like, there was only a few or there was a several or what, like now it's just ridiculous. Like you're talking about, but there was a world where I remember looking at it thinking like, this is probably a thing. And then I didn't do anything about it. And I missed the boat. So
I definitely, I wish I had jumped on it like as soon as I got out of school. But we're here now and we can do what we can do. And I think, out working or out putting more content, you can always like push through, or doing something different that other people aren't doing. You can still push your way into it. I think there's still time. So
I think that's one of the things that you bring to the table that would be difficult to replicate. And this is also something that jumped out to me with you versus other people that I was looking at, is because I do know that across the board, the people that were most popular online are posting treatment videos. So there is that like crack video thing that people are interested in. Yeah. But there was a couple of people that really stood out to me. And the thing that stood out to me with you is that there's just sort of a uniqueness with your vibe and kind of who you are as a human being that I just thought this is cool. And the reason this is cool is because so many people are uncomfortable in their own skin. Like so many people are trying to be somebody else. They're trying to like say what somebody else does. And it's to see someone who is kind of like, okay, I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to be my own person, and I'm going to figure out how to be successful being my own person. Not just I'm going to be my own person to my own detriment, but I'm going to be my own person in a successful way. I think a lot of people don't know how to do that. And I think regardless of how many people are doing trying to do exactly what you're doing, they're going to have a hard time replicating it from purely a unique standpoint because your brand is sort of a unique thing.
Yeah, or it'll look like it's like copying or something like that.
Sure.
Have you ever read the Book Yourself Solid?
I've some of it, not all of it.
So there's, I think the first or second chapter is called Red Rope Policy, which it essentially is, you have your patients that you love and you have your patients that you're like, oh man, I got to like spend some time with them. And it's essentially basically, pushing those patients that you don't like out, not like in an aggressive way, but like being like, oh, I think you might vibe better at this office or, however we decide to do that. And then you end up getting referrals from the people that you actually do vibe with. And I think, what I've been able to, like, by bringing authenticity into my content, it attracts the people who I genuinely vibe with. And coming to work is like a very fun thing for me. I'll look at my schedule. I'm like, oh, sweet. I get to hang out with all of these people today and we get to catch up. And it's like, I genuinely like catching up with, it doesn't feel like work when you get to work with the people that you want to work with. And I think that, with social media, putting out there who you are, that allows, you to attract the audience that you want. So
I'll tell you the Jerry way of explaining that. When I talk to my clients, I'll tell them that when you identify who your perfect, like, let's say your avatar, whatever, marketing world, we talk about avatars and you talk about your ideal client or whatever, however you want to call it. When you do a really good job from a marketing and branding standpoint and from a communication standpoint and exactly what you're talking about, when you do a really good job of that, when you enter a business who's done a good job of that, it looks like a family reunion. There may not be any single person in that business that looks exactly like the ideal avatar, but somebody's got his nose, somebody's got his eyes, somebody's got his ears. Like there's characteristics and traits of your ideal person that are woven throughout the entire business. And there's a commonality. There's something that makes sense. And even like if you think about it from a car standpoint, it's like there's Corvette guys and it's like, oh, we can all say who a Corvette guy is, or there's BMW guys, there's Porsche guys. And it's like, it's like you kind of like,
you see that.
Yeah. So it's like you kind of, they've done a good job of figuring out who they are and who they're marketing to. And the people that they're marketing to know that they're marketing to them because they're attracted to that thing. And so whether you've done that consciously or unconsciously, you've done a good job of that. And there's something really important about that, because if you try to be everyone's chiropractor, you end up being no one's chiropractor and you end up hating your practice.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm definitely fortunate. I was actually just thinking about it yesterday when I, what I just said, looking at my schedule, I was like, oh, sweet. Like today's going to be really fun. I get to, hang out with all the people that I love to work with. And then you genuinely, you want to make those people better when you kind of don't like that patient. Like, I mean, I'm always going to treat everybody the same, but like, it does make it easier to want to help people when they vibe with you as well.
I had a chiropractor when I was in practice that was in my office one time, and they made the comment, how come there's so many dudes in here? Like, I didn't, like, I'm not saying I attract dudes, but it's like there was like, and I had never thought about it, it's like, cause at that point in my career, like I wasn't really fully conscious of the stuff that we're even talking about now. And the more I thought about it, I said, you know why all the dudes are here? All the dudes are here because I'm very comfortable with skeptics. Like I'm very comfortable with people who don't want to go to the chiropractor or who don't like the idea of going to the chiropractor. I like motorcycles, and I have guys that come in here, and like the Harley guys came in, and they're all like, and they were like, there was this sort of demographic of like manly men who there was a lot of them that came in my practice, and I didn't really even think about it because a lot of practices are like, oh, it's a bunch of chicks, it's like chicks and kids, like those that go to the chiropractor's office. And in my practice, until someone had pointed it out, I was kind of going, huh. But you know what though? My favorite people were the dudes. It's like the working guys that came in, or the guys that rode in on their motorcycles. And like, we didn't talk about chiropractic. We didn't talk about health. We just freaking talked about their bikes and like whatever. Like I love that. Those were my favorite people.
Yeah. Yeah, I think our waiting room demographic is pretty hilarious. It's like all tattooed people, like all tattoo artists, barbers, whoever I kind of like put on the internet is, I'm using their network when you do collaborations, and they're like, okay, that's who works with them. And I think it makes people feel more comfortable. You don't want to hang out with somebody who's like, I don't know, not like, it's even age, I think, goes into it too. Like, you want to be able to talk about the same things. You want to talk about like what concerts you go to. We see a lot of music artists, and I think you just attract whoever, whatever you put out into the world.
I think the flip side of that is being comfortable with not being the right chiropractor for everyone. Mm-hmm. Like, it's because when you first get started, there's like this weird desperation of like, you just think like everybody's a yes. Like it's like, oh my gosh, if you got a spine, I can help you. And it's like, there's a lot of reasons. I went to Logan one time because I'm not too far from Logan, and I went there to talk to some of the students in one of their student clubs about marketing. And the question I posed to them is like, who are you trying to help? Right. And who's your ideal patient? And they couldn't answer the question. Like it's never occurred to them that anyone who has a spine is not their patient. It's like, yeah. And I told them,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. And I told them, I said, tell me why someone wouldn't be a good fit. Like start there. And they're like, they can't come up with anything. I said, what if they're broke? Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not saying you can't ever take care of somebody who doesn't have any money, but you can't make a living off having broke people come into your practice. This can't be your ideal patient if they're broke. Right. And it's like, you have to think about these things, because you need to be comfortable if somebody comes to your practice and they say, I'm looking for ABC and your practice is XYZ. You need to be comfortable just saying, hey, go to them. Like, they're better for you. Right. And it takes a little bit to get to that point.
Yeah. And I think, that question, answering that in school, like, you really don't know until you get into practice and you're like, oh, okay, I actually don't like this demographic or like this type of person. And so I think that question is hard to answer as a student, because you do take everybody. It's kind of hilarious. So when I started my practice, that was maybe 5 years ago, I had 0 tattoos, like not even a single tattoo.
I saw your graduation picture. So it's like, that was my question, was kind of like, when did this happen?
Yeah, I'm very fast. I have a pretty addictive personality, and I've always wanted to get to this point, but all of my time and money was being put back into the business, and I wanted to focus on that. But it's funny, because my original patients, who I still see, like my patients from like 5-6 years ago, they've known me, pre-tattoos, and some of them are at an older demographic, like 70 plus, and
they've seen the glow up.
Yeah. I love those patients too, because they've seen everything from like me being in a closet to what the office is now, and they'll act kind of like my parents, like, oh man, did you get any more tattoos? And I'm like, yeah, it's like, but now it's funny, the people who come in, 95% of it's through social media. Yeah. So they already know who I am. They already know what to expect. They kind of, which is really nice bonus from social media, is you don't have to like sell them on anything. They're already sold before they come in, because they've seen you. Versus, the 5% that might have found us through like Google or Yelp or, whatever. We use Jane, so it'll tell you like how they found you before they came in. So whenever I see like a Google person, I'm like, oh shoot, they have no idea like what they might know what the office looks like because of the pictures and stuff. Because our office looks pretty crazy. It's like graffitied up, but probably don't know what I look like. And I dress like this. Like, I don't wear like anything. Like, I just dress like a regular human. And so
what is the, hold on. Let me ask you this, because I love this conversation about how you dress in general. When you started, what was it like?
So when I started out of school, I worked for a practice in kind of like a ritzy area, like Lululemon type, like, like Cherry Creek Wash Park areas where I worked. And I would wear like a button down, dress shoes, and slacks. And man, I'd rip all those sleeves up.
Like a grown up.
Yeah, it sucked. I had to think about like which outfit matched with like what thing. And then I switched when I opened up my own practice. I was like, man, I'm gonna wear the same exact thing every day. So I switched to
Yeah.
black scrubs. So I just had 5 scrubs, and it's like
Yeah.
no thoughts. Decision fatigue is a thing. So I stole that from Steve Jobs.
Bro,
And
I'm a big fan of uniform. Like I would literally wear the exact same thing every day of my life if it's comfortable and I like it. I wear a lot of the same. It's like I find a pair of shorts I like and I buy like 6 or 7 of the same ones that are different colors, and then it's like same way with pants. Yeah.
I have 5 of these pants, like, and they're the only pants that I wear.
I don't like thinking about clothes at all. I'm just like, my wife will be like, "You're always wearing hoodies." I'm like, "I like my hoodies. Like, leave me alone."
Yeah. So,
So you went to the scrubs, and then at what point did you have the aha moment that I could dress however I want?
that came more recently. I still do like the scrubs, but I follow this dentist on social media. He's a pediatric dentist. I don't know his name. But his office kind of looks like mine. Like he's got like a basketball court in there. He's got like a, slide, like a playground. It's all graffitied up and just like really fun. And he just wears regular clothes. Like you would not be able to tell that he's the dentist.
Yeah.
And his thought process behind that is that like you're just another person versus if you're wearing a white coat. You're going to scare that kid because they're like, oh, this is some scary guy who's going to like poke my teeth with, needles and stuff like that. And that's when I was like, you know what? Like, I think it allows people to open up more and like be themselves. I feel like I've definitely noticed a shift where patients feel more comfortable bringing up, other things outside of just like their injury that actually might play into their injury, like home life or, drug use or, things like that, that you wouldn't get if you're wearing like a white coat. Cause like you're like, okay, I don't want to tell this guy he's going to like tell on me or he's not going to like, I think that's more like medicine wise, but it's actually funny. I was in my medical doctor appointment this morning, and he walks in and he's like, "Man, you're the second tattooed person I've seen all day." It's just like a funny interaction. I was like, oh, "Okay, like we live in Denver, like it's pretty common." But yeah, I think that like some doctors are just like scary. Even to me, I'm like, man, that guy's kind of like scary. He's all like dressed up and serious about what he does. Like, I don't want to tell him all this.
I think something that's interesting about what you're doing is that I think a lot of chiropractors who they're not building authority with content. They're not building relationships with content. They try to build authority with clothes. And like a clothes and appearance. And I think that when you're someone in your situation where you're building relationships and authority, I don't mean authority in like a pounding your fist sort of way. I just mean authority as in
trust.
They're building trust. They're like, I respect this person. I trust this person. I think they're going to do right by me. They're going to do a good job. Like you're building authority in that way. When you're doing it in a different way, you don't have to do it with your clothes. And then you actually get the freedom, because I think you have the best of both worlds. You're building trust and authority through content and through like how you're presenting yourself online. But then when people show up, it's a casual environment so that people feel comfortable with you. So you're getting the openness and comfortableness of the casual environment while you have the trust and authority of someone who is good at what they do and knows what they're doing. To me, it's the perfect combination of things.
Yeah. Yeah, and going back to like the 5%, that finds us through Google when they walk in, I do feel like I have to overcompensate for like the first half to build that trust. Because I do, it's natural. Like even I'm going to judge, somebody off of like a first interaction or off of appearance. And so I know that that's going through their head is like, oh my gosh, can this guy take care of like this crazy back pain that I have? And so I will use like more medical terminology, like bigger words, like I'll,
is that a burden? It feels like a burden.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind. Like it's natural. Like I talk to people, you gauge each patient and you kind of like go with the vibe of what they want out of it. So if somebody wants more like PT rehab, I'm going to talk more about that type of stuff. We're going to speak their language. If somebody thinks of chiropractic as more spiritual or whatever, I'm not going to, that's not necessarily how I think of it, but I'm not going to tell them they're wrong. I'm going to, kind of run with it in a way that both of us can agree on a treatment plan together.
I have a similar experience with the vast majority of my clients come through my podcast. And so it's very unusual. Now, some people find me on Google or whatever, but most of the people that get a hold of me and I'm talking to them about a website or talking about search engine optimization or something like that, they've listened to many of my multiple podcasts of mine.
Mm.
And so when someone gets a hold of me and they're like, you know, they've never listened to a podcast, it's sort of the same thing you're talking about, where I'm going, I kind of overcompensate a little bit, and
Right.
I feel a little weird because then I feel like I have to sell them a little bit more
You have
when
to prove yourself.
yeah, like I got, because like if someone's listened to me talk for, you know, 20 hours and then they get a hold of me, it's like, you know what you're getting. You know, it's like, you've heard these stories. And so it is interesting to have that experience and to be aware of it. You know, it's like to be aware that like how people are coming to you is kind of changing how you're interacting with them. I also think something interesting you said, which I wanted to just point out to people in general who are listening, because I think people don't understand how important it is. And that is, when the patient shows up and the doctor is there, you guys, there's this gap between you in terms of understanding chiropractic and your ability to help them. It's like you might be able to help them. You might be a great fit. They may need your help and want help, but there's this gap, there's this chasm between patients and doctors. And it's never wise as the chiropractor to expect the patient to come over to your perspective and say like, this is how I think about chiropractic, or this is how I think about health. This is how I think about whatever. And I'm going to say the right words and educate you. And I'm going to get you to understand, because you're going to get it and you're going to come over to my side of the fence and we're going to agree and we're going to be a great family and it's going to be awesome. And then when they don't do it, you say, well, some will, some won't. So what? Next, please. And you end up burning a person because your expectation as a chiropractor is for them to come over to your side of the fence and use chiropractic from your perspective. And instead, I'm always encouraging chiropractors, and I love that you said this in a much more simple way than what I'm saying it, is that you're listening to the person, you're identifying, can I help this person? Like, is this person somebody I can help? And then once you've identified that you can help them, you're communicating what you do in a way that they understand and with their value system, because you're now going to their side of that gap and not expecting them to come to yours, and not standing on your intellectual high horse and being like, that's not what chiropractic really is. You know, I don't think that's wise. And I think that the fact that you're aware of that and you're sort of modifying what you're saying based on where the person's coming from is an incredibly smart way to go about practice that a lot of people don't do.
Yeah, I think it's a mistake that I made early on, and I think I would assume that like a lot of like new students out of school, they've determined how they see chiropractic, and they're going to preach that to everybody who comes in. And I definitely did that, but you think about it, there's so many different styles of chiropractic and, way to do chiropractic in schools that, teach why we're doing what we do. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we're all doing the same thing. So does it really matter like how you explain it? Or if like you disagree with like the patient coming in who's like, oh, my old chiropractor said that it's my atlas is, out of place, this and that. It's like, yeah, I'll just agree with that. I'm going to still look at you the way, like I'm going to do my own assessment. And I might keep it to myself depending on like how, aggressive you think that is. But like for me to be like, no, actually your old chiropractor was wrong, who like you worked with for like 10 years. Yeah. Like they're not going to be open to like what I have to say. Like I have to build, trust. And, maybe one day we like open that up and be like, oh, it's actually like, this thing, or, explaining it in a different way. But yeah, I like how you explain it as well. It's definitely something that you can't just go on autopilot and cookie cutter treatments with every single person and, sit them down to watch this video and be like, this is what chiropractic is, and expect them to understand. You have to, explain it in a way that they will understand based on where they're at in life and where they're coming from and what type of injury they have.
I think one of the hardest things to do as a new chiropractor that you're completely ill-equipped to do, I shouldn't say as a new chiropractor, as a chiropractor in general, the thing that is very difficult to do, that is continually difficult to do, and that is just people management, not patient management, just dealing with human beings. And you're completely ill-equipped to do it when you come out of school because you don't have any experience dealing with people. And it is this what we're talking about, where it's you can't look at a person as this number or this what, like everybody is unique and everybody is different. And if you can't go to them and ask them questions. And to me, like so many chiropractors ask questions that the answer to the question does not have any impact on what that chiropractor is going to do. And to me, that's a pointless question. It's like, why are you asking that question if it doesn't have any impact on what you're going to do? Because you're just dehumanizing the person, and you're just like, oh, let's just get you in here and do whatever. It's like, ask the question. If they tell you something and then you go, okay, this is where they're coming from. This is what they're expecting. This is what they need. This is what they want. I tell all my docs, I said, there's 3 questions I ask every single patient when they came in the door, like later in practice, not early. I'd always ask them, why are you here? Now, I know that seems dumb, obvious, but I want to know why you're here, but I want to know also why you're here now, because a lot of people that come in, like they've had this problem for years. So it's like, why now? Like, just tell me more about why you're here holistically. Why are you here? The next question I want to have, which I think is my favorite question, which is, what are you hoping to achieve? Like, what's the goal?
Every single patient is, what is your goal? What do you want out of this?
They're giving you the freaking bullseye, man. It's like why don't make it about reaching their fullest health potential when they just want to be able to sleep on their left side without pain. You know what I mean? Like, make the whole thing about sleeping on your left side without pain. Like, they're giving you the bullseye. The only other the other question I ask everybody, because I just wanted to know how long you think this is going to take. Now, the most common answer is, I don't know, which is fine. The only reason I ask that question is because if you have a 30-year problem and you want it gone in 30 seconds, we might need to talk about expectations. If you have an issue with your hip and you're going out to go hiking with your daughter in the summertime and you need to be better by the summertime so you can go hiking, I just want to know that. Like, I just want to know, is there a time frame? Is there something in your brain that you're kind of wanting to work with? Because that kind of helps us understand, like, if there's no time frame on this, maybe we can be more conservative. If there is a time frame on this, maybe we need to be more aggressive. So those are the questions that I would ask. And it helped me tailor what I was doing to the individual person. But when I first started in practice, everybody got the same spiel. Everybody got the same recommendations. Everybody got the same everything. And that was a mistake.
Well, in school, we learn the OMPQRS, whatever, like the 12 set of questions is that you answer and you go through, and an appointment takes like an hour and a half. I think if you ask those questions, like, to, what its relevance is, but like, if you just had those 3 questions that you ask, I think that would help so many people. And if they teach that in schools, that would help so many people be a lot more successful faster in practice, rather than like figuring it out like a year or 2 into practice.
Or never.
Yeah. Man, so it's amazing. Like, I don't want to get into like just some of the set cookie cutter styles of chiropractic. It's like, man, like, you're just doing this with everybody. Like, what if somebody just like woke up and they like tweak their neck and they just need, an adjustment? Like, that's one session, but you're going to like take an x-ray, you're going to draw some lines and tell them they need to come in 30 times. Like, no, they're going to be afraid of chiropractors forever. They're going to think that that's like every single chiropractor. And yes, that is something that can benefit and is for certain like demographics, but like, you need to listen to that person and be like, all right, like that question that you asked, how long do you think this is going to take? Well, it's like, and what do you want out of it? It's like, well, I want to be able to turn my head to the right. I woke up wrong this morning. Okay, it's probably not going to take us like 30 sessions to get you to turn your head to the right.
The other thing too is, this is something, when you talk about that mistake, this is obviously, I'm telling you something that you're not doing, but it's like, if somebody wants to sit down with a patient and say, here's my recommendation, and it's like a 6-week, 10-week, 12-week, 100,000 visits, whatever it is. Like, let's suppose that that's what they really think is best. Like, let's not assume that they're doing anything wrong, and that's genuinely what they think is best. I always will tell my docs, you need to ask this person, is this something you can do?
Yeah.
And need to listen to what they say. Mm-hmm. Because if they're sitting there going, no way, like, no freaking way. Like, don't you want to know that? Mm-hmm. Like, and if they say, yes, I can, then great. Don't you want to know that? Like, I always call it closing the loop. It's like, basically, it's like, if this is the plan and I told you the plan and you agree to the plan, and then we move forward with the plan until something changes where we change the plan. It's like there's this loop that you've kind of closed because you're in a leadership position with the patient.
Mm-hmm.
And when you just dump this on them and then just be like, let's get started, and the patient's going, I'm coming in once or twice and I'm out of here. Like there's like why can't you have that conversation in the beginning, and then everybody can adjust their expectations of what's going on here?
Totally. That's a great way to explain that. I love that.
So tell me this, how has your content changed over, I mean, I know you said you were doing the treatment stuff and then you're kind of doing some influencer stuff now. Like talk to me about how you've gone through the process of sort of like identifying what's working, what's not, what do I need to do more of? How has that changed over the last few years? Like just talk to me through like the content part of it.
Man, I feel like every month is different, but I think definitely listening to your audience and listening to statistics of like what's working. I originally started with physical therapy videos, that moved into that one crack video that I did, listening to the comments. They're like, oh, I listen to these to fall asleep to. Can you make the videos longer? And I found out if I made the videos 30 minutes long and they went through the whole treatment, even me like going through like a history of the client, that those videos would become more successful. Then, we got one video with the adult film industry, and that video blew up so fast that YouTube blocked my channel. Somebody else stole the video and it got like millions of views, and I was like, okay, cool, like this is the direction that the people want out of it. So I pushed further into that direction, and I think that that's what initially drove me up to like my bigger YouTube following. At this point now, I'm trying to slowly get away from that because it's not super mainstream. And I found that like working with like athletes, the general public is like, oh, okay, he can work with like this level of athlete, he can work with me too, versus
100%.
Rappers and porn stars. Like that's not really like something.
It's a demographic.
Yeah, it's not something
a niche
that like, a lot of people can, identify with. And so it builds, people wanting to see me as a chiropractor, but not necessarily the practice. And, my other chiropractor, Dr. Widgie, I want it to be more, open. And so, yeah, it's crazy. I guess, initially Instagram didn't really have reels when I started doing content.
Yeah.
I was just looking back at those old videos. But, I think reels definitely changed the game. The crack content, like that's what I think there just didn't exist a lot of that like 2-3 years ago. Now everybody's doing it. So I feel like that content's kind of like people are tired of it. It doesn't bring much value. I see it as like chiropractic entertainment. You're facilitating. What I do like out of it is having somebody come in and they're a little bit nervous. It's their first adjustment and they're like, they have something that you can show before and after, and then you do the adjustment and then they're laughing and then they can move afterwards. And I think that that's like a pretty cool message that's entertaining. It has like the ASMR aspect into it, and it might bring value to somebody who's like, oh, you know what? Like maybe I can, try this chiropractic thing out because it worked for that person who was nervous and I'm nervous too.
Yeah.
Where the content is going, is that kind of what you asked me?
You can absolutely put a bow on it with that, because that makes a lot of sense. You're kind of walking me through the whole thing. So just where is it going? Where do you see it going from now? I know you're heading more into like a little bit of like an influencer space, and sort of just I could see over the course of just the few months that I followed your stuff, there's definitely a shifting of, which is why I was asking the question about being an influencer. So where's it going? Like, where do you see it going?
So, it's interesting. I think earlier in the year, I had an agency from LA that they're actually flying people out to our office to just kind of like hang out and see how the office operates, see how I work, see how I talk to patients, see how I like create my content. We did that for about 2 months. It was like a whole team where they would like script the episodes. The person coming in, they'd have like interview questions for me to ask. And they were trying to gear me more towards like mainstream stuff. Ultimately, they ended up dropping me. They wanted to do like a TV show, basically. So like, the animal doctor,
like the pimple popper, and
exactly. So they wanted to do that like for my office. And as I kind of got into the back end of things, they realized like my content was only successful at that time depending on who I worked with. So if the person that I worked with had a huge following, the video might do really well.
Yeah.
If it didn't do well. And so I realized that I need to work on my own character. And like at that time, it was, if you watch the videos, it was just, I wasn't really even talking. Like I was just the facilitator of the crack and the reaction. And it was more based on like how that person reacted was how well that video is going to do. So that's when I realized, I was like, okay, I need to actually build out my own personal character so that there's something to actually follow. So it doesn't matter who I have on the table. I could bring in, homeless dude off the street or, whoever, but they're watching that video because I'm the one talking and I'm the one, facilitating that thing. So I started, and I'm a very like introverted person. So me being on camera in the first place is like not my favorite thing. I've just kind of forced myself into doing it because I know that like if I want to make a bigger impact, I need to like video is the way that we do things in 2024. And so I've really just been working on like my speaking skills, like talking to the camera, being more of like I think the next step is me going into like more interview stuff. I had a medical doctor that works in our office. We did like a podcast on him, but being able to create more like authority, because my ultimate vision for the profession, we have our Dorsa tools. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
Yeah, I've seen a little bit of it. Yeah.
So that actually drops tomorrow on Amazon. I feel like I've been talking about it for like 3 years. It took me a little bit to get going. So I have an engineer who's helping me kind of take, those TENS units that look like they're from like the 90s.
Yeah.
Like we don't have like that hook up to the, like I do dry needling.
Yeah.
So it's like that unit just sucks. Like there's so many like things, like I have to like put a rubber band around it. And it's like, there's just no other option to like, that's the one that we have to buy. So I'm basically, I'm trying to take all of the equipment that we have that's like from the 90s and update it, make it look cool, make it functionally better, and wrap that all into one brand called Dorsa Tools. So getting into like tables, lasers, needles, everything right now. We've just got the Y strap is being shipped out right now to the US, and then our scraper tool. So something super basic just to kind of start us off. The profit with that will dive into tables, but also like making things cheaper, like the Graston instruments. Like I know I'm going like way off topic. I'm gonna just keep talking.
You're fine. Go ahead.
When I bought the scrapers, I think it was like $250 for this like chunk of metal. And as a student, like that's a lot of money. And we're able to take like pretty much the same 3D printed thing, build it out. We threw like our colored brand in there, the Tiffany blue, into the metal. Just to have more branding, but we're able to make it cost like, I think it's $39.99 for the exact same tool. Like it's pretty much an exact replica of what I paid for $250. And now it's like, okay, students can have that same quality of things, but also like the general public, like that doesn't, like some of these things, like, like a percussion instrument. I hate it when like chiropractors do like, or not percussion. Yeah. The vibration guns. It's like, man, you can just buy one and do that at home. Like you don't need to pay me for that time. But some of the products are for patients. So I think by me switching my content to more of like an authoritative figure and not just like this hyped up, like, oh, like we're going to adjust these rappers and porn stars and stuff like that, but having more education in there. So I have that authority to build up that brand. I want to donate, these better products to schools so that students are able to learn on them. The 3 to 5 year plan is to sell that company. And with that money, I'd like to eventually open up a school where it kind of cuts out, a lot of the bullshit that's in there. And we bring in, a lot of the people doing like seminars, but have them as like your professors. So we have this like guaranteed, like program where it's like, okay, we have like our class where we study 4 boards, because I feel like I took like a separate course for that.
Yeah.
Have it just be like, hey, this is what you need to know for boards. This is what you need to know for real life. Just kind of bringing in the best of the best. And I think that way we kind of pump out good chiropractors from the source rather than getting them out there and then like trying to make them change down the road. I don't know if that makes sense, but
no, I understand. Actually, the thing that came to mind when you were talking about building your own like personality is, I don't know if you've ever watched those like the old Top Gear or like Grand Tour, like those presenters. It's like James May and Jeremy Clarkson and these guys. The reason I thought of them is because there was a point in their career where it's like people were watching their content because they were interested in the cars. And then there came a point in their career where people were watching them because they were interested in them. And it didn't matter what the car was. And it didn't matter if they were, what they were talking about. It didn't even matter what they were, like what they were doing. People were interested in them as characters and as human beings. And what they were talking about was just the topic. It wasn't the interest. And so I totally understand what you're saying when it's like, there's a difference between what people are like, why are people interested in your stuff?
Right. Yeah. I think I get very self-conscious on camera because like sometimes when I'm like facilitating like an adjustment, I'm like, man, I've said the same exact thing on every single video. So I kind of get in my head, or I fall into this like robotic routine where I'm just like not bringing anything like new or valuable to the table. And it just depends on that person's reaction to it. I think Dr. Tubio does like a really good job of like, you know, the way he like tricks people before he like adjusts them. But it's like every video is like, yes, it's the same, but he's like saying different things. He has like the patients like kind of describing stuff. I think he does a really good job. But for me, it's like when the camera turns on, I'm like, oh shoot, I can't be like who I naturally am. Like I feel like I am funny like in practice naturally when there's like nobody watching, but then when the camera's on, I'm just like this like robot. And so like part of my character development is doing like improv classes. Terrified of that stuff, like terrified of like freestyling and like any of that stuff. But I think, you know, you can always improve your brain. And, you know, I used to be scared to be on camera, but now I'm, you know, on a podcast with you, you know, speaking, still like not super comfortable with it. But like the more you throw yourself into a situation, like the easier it gets. I think you know, you always hear like TEDx talker, like, you know, speakers being like, yeah, like, you know, I still get nervous, like this, even though it's a thousandth time. And so me getting in my reps or like learning a new skill set, like learning how to get into your flow state, like you can actually learn and like change your brain on how to do that. And I think that's how I can create like a better character for myself and, you know, also feel better about myself. I think doing social media has kind of helped my self-confidence and realize like, okay, like I do have power to like talk to people and say the things that I want to say.
The interesting thing about being on camera is that they always say the camera adds 5 pounds. Well, the camera sucks about 50% of the life out of you too. And so like when you, like if you and I, like now this is different because we're just talking, but if you're actually recording yourself to do a video for social media or do something for YouTube or whatever, you have to purposely be more animated. Otherwise you just look freaking dead. And you do not, and obviously you would never sit across the dinner table from someone and act the way that you do on camera because people would look at you like, calm down, bro. Like there's like because it's over animated. It's too much. But when you don't do it on camera, it just absolutely looks dead. And people don't realize that there's a little bit of an art to over exaggerating when you're on film.
I think I was looking back at like some of my old videos from like 4 or 5 years ago, and I would emulate other YouTubers who were like extremely animated. And, you know, because I'd film a video and I'd be like, oh my gosh, like I sound super monotone, like what you were talking about. And then you do it again and it sounds a little bit better. And then, but I would emulate like other YouTubers who were like, you know, hit the like subscribe button, like going crazy, like with that. And it wasn't me. And I think I've eventually like, cause I'm a very chill, like relaxed person. So like that doesn't match like my voice and like who I actually am. And I think over the years I've been able to kind of stay chill and like add in like my humor and, you know, stuff like that. One trick for people that are wanting to do like talking head videos, like what I've been posting lately. So like I used to try to do it like all in one run. And then like my heartbeat would start. I'm like, oh shoot, what do I say next? What do I say next? I can't pause. So when I shoot those videos and you can look at it, like it's super chopped up. So each sentence, I actually just decided, I was like, I'm going to just type out the exact script and then see if I can say it within a minute. And then that way I know it can fit in a reel. And I'll literally just have the camera on. I'll look at the sentence. I'll read the sentence and then I'll look up at the camera, say the sentence, look down at the next sentence, look up at the camera, and then you just chop out the dead space. So it's like for a minute video, it might take me like 4 minutes, or if I
Yeah.
like say something or like misread something, I'll just say it again, like, or if I'm like not as excited, or like I want to end it like or go into the next sentence differently. But that's the trick, is you don't have to be perfect. You can, write your message down, you can slow things down, and then you just hit that record button, and you can like clear your voice, you can like take a deep breath if you need to, you can
Yeah.
like take a sip of water in between it. And once you chop it up, it's crazy because then you look like you're this expert that like really knows what they're talking about. Not that you don't know what you're talking about, but it takes away that like camera anxiety, I think, knowing that like you can just edit the dead space out, or the ums and the uhs and like things like that. Can't really do this on a podcast, so.
Well, you know what? The good news about all of this stuff is, whether you're an introvert or extrovert, because I'm totally an introvert, and I can tell you from having done hundreds of podcasts and now hundreds of videos, which I don't do the YouTube thing like you do, but it's like I've done a lot of stuff, and I know that the more you do it, the more comfortable you get with it. And if you're willing to just look at it and come up with, like, I could do this better, I could tweak this, I could do that, or whatever, and even maybe take some of the pressure off of yourself, because it doesn't have to be perfect. And you're never going to be as good today as you're going to be a year from now if you do it 50 more times or 100 more times. Like, it's just, that's not fair. It's not even fair to like, you can't judge your current self by your future self. Like, that's not fair. So the important thing is, like, you just do the best you can, and you keep committing to improving, and then it'll be fine.
Yeah.
So tell me this, I'm going to let you get out of here because I know you got some other stuff to do. Is there anything you want to say as far as people following you, people finding you, something you mentioned the Amazon stuff, like, just the floor is yours.
Oh man, put me on the spot.
You can say nothing. That's fine.
Yeah, no, I don't know what I want to say. I would say that I think that, we're on social media right now. We're on a podcast, so whoever's listening is likely, in the know with chiropractic stuff. I think that, I guess a message of motivation, if you're thinking about like doing content, like, just post 10 different, like, I don't know, I'm just going to give advice, but post 10 different videos of you talking. It's going to suck, and your audience is going to, maybe hate you. Like, you're going to think about your family and your friends who are watching you, but post just 10 videos. Doesn't, like, just write them all out, like your 10 different ideas, post them up, see which one does the best, and then go in that direction, because that's what, people want from you, and then just keep taking it from there. And ultimately, I think that like everybody has different value that they can bring to the world of chiropractic. And I think, I say that the profession was dying a little bit. Like, my schools no longer exist. I went to Palmer West in California. I think at one point we had like 100 chiropractic schools. Now we're down to like 20. I think that social media has actually, despite us being made fun of, I think that it's actually helping the profession now. I get, a bunch of people hitting me up like, oh, like, I've seen your videos. I want to do what you do. It looks so much fun. I think that we can like truly change and shift the healthcare system if we do it in the right way, but it takes, more people putting out their ideas. So I don't know what my message was exactly, but it's exciting. I think we're in like a really cool space as a profession, as far as where we can take it. We can either keep getting made fun of on the internet, or we can kind of like, rebuttal back. And yeah, I think the internet's kind of given us the power.
I think it's really the last thing I'll kind of say is this, is that I wish more chiropractors were just comfortable being chiropractors. It's just, there's nothing to be ashamed of. Obviously there are things we could do better as a profession, but there are incredible value and the profession's awesome. Like, what you can do for someone by putting your hands on them and doing a good job as a chiropractor is absolutely phenomenal. And there shouldn't really be any insecurity about that, about being a real doctor or not being a whatever. It's, being a chiropractor is awesome. And so if you're just really locked in on, I'm going to be the best chiropractor that I can be, there's no reason you need to be insecure or feel bad about it. You just need to now, it's like, okay, if you're going to be the best chiropractor you can be, and you're going to be the best you could be for your patients, now just look around and figure out, like, how can I help more people? How can I get that message out? How can I reach more people? And the answer is going to be different for everybody, but you shouldn't, the starting point shouldn't be, I'm insecure about being a chiropractor. Being a chiropractor is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I always look back. I'm like, man, this is a cool job. Like, it's such a weird job, but like,
it is a weird job.
At the same time, I would definitely do it again. I don't know if there's any other thing that I'd want to do. But yeah, sometimes I wake up, I'm like, man, people like pay us for this.
Yes.
But it's cool. We've got a lot of good stuff in our profession, and I think that over the next few years, we're really going to be able to change it into better and better.
Cool, man. Well, hey, thank you for coming on. Thank you for chatting with me. I appreciate it. Unless there's anything else you want to say, we're going to wrap this up and we're going to be done.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. Great talking to you. I love the way that you speak and summarize my jumble of mess into a more concise message. So it's been fun hanging out with you. I'm excited to see this episode come out.
Cool, man. Hey, we'll talk later. Thanks.
Sounds good. Bye.